Hello learners, I am Dr. Subhash Chander from Department of Education, University of Delhi. I will be discussing about quality assurance in secondary education. The objective of these modules are to discuss the quality indicators of secondary education, identify different broad and specific quality indicators of secondary education, analyze individual quality indicators in detail, discuss strategies for quality improvement in secondary schools. NEP 2020 envisions revamping of the curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, and student support to enhance experiences of the learners. It is important for us to understand that curriculum is not just a guide for us to work towards the education of the learners, but also it focuses on a lot of different aspects. The quality in education is hugely dependent on the way curriculum is given importance. There is a need for us to strategize about the improvement of curriculum so that it directly impacts the quality of education for our learners. There are different quality indicators for secondary school education. These quality indicators can be understood in different ways. We have tried to understand it in two broad categories. These quality indicators are divided in as broad quality indicators and then specific quality indicators. The broad quality indicators are curriculum, teacher and pedagogy, school management, continuous and comprehensive evaluation. The specific quality indicators are infrastructure and other resources, school planning and management, teaching learning resources, curriculum transaction, learner progress, teachers' professional development. Now, let us focus on these broad and specific quality indicators one by one. Curriculum. Curriculum ensures or envisions to ensure that it will be inclusive at different stages. It also tries to ensure that the learners will become more inclusive in nature. The emphasis on the social context is one of the fortes of Indian curriculum because it is important that our education system is relevant to the social context. So, the importance given to social context of the learners is very important. It also envisions that we use a variety of teaching learning activities. The variety of teaching learning activities try to ensure that the activities which are there are conducive for the learner's different learning style. It addresses the diversity among the learners as well as it gives importance to the content. The learning designs which are used need to have different types of learning activities. So the curriculum should be conducive to give opportunities to the teachers to use such different activities for our learners. The curriculum requires the learners to reflect about the texts, contents and the activities which are there. It is important that the curriculum includes components like art, craft, health and peace. Social and national concerns such as social discrimination with regards to gender, other marginalized groups, unemployment, poverty, etc. are also an important part of the curriculum. The students need to develop these ideas apart from understanding the content in the disciplines which are given there. Also, it is important for the learners to develop their individual skills. These individual skills will help them in contributing towards their individual growth as well as growth of the society. We call some of these skills as vocational skills also. Teacher and pedagogy. It is important for us to understand that quality in education is directly related to the quality of the teachers. The quality of the teachers is dependent on how qualified, how educated these teachers are. As an institution, at least we have to ensure that we have qualified and eligible teachers who are better prepared to implement a conducive pedagogy for the learners. We need teachers who are prepared with understanding of pedagogical content knowledge, which we popularly called PCK. Awareness about the current development of the pedagogical practices is an important area which our teachers need to have, because the pedagogical practices, especially in last 2 decades, have evolved drastically with exponential change in technology. Apart from the technological changes, it is important that the context of the learners is also changing, and with the context of the learner, it is important that our pedagogical practices are also more conducive towards the context of the learner. The requirement of linking the curriculum, syllabus and textbooks with the experiences of the learner is an important concern which teachers should have. They should also be prepared with methods of doing such exercises. It is important that teachers are regular and punctual in their work ethics. Also, they cooperate and collaborate with each other, because it is important to envision the learning space as a place where there is a lot of collaboration among different stakeholders. Teachers practicing research in their classrooms are the teachers who are better prepared for future. The teachers need to be prepared with skills like action research so that they understand their classrooms in a better way, and they are prepared with solutions for these challenges which they encounter in their classrooms. It is important that they are prepared with innovative methods of teaching, innovative ways of using different resources which are available these days. Resources like technology, resources like artificial intelligence, resources like science kits, resources like different games and simulations which are available, and these resources can be used effectively for development of learning among the learners. Teachers need to understand the students. It is important that the teachers are aware about the learner's ability, their aptitude, interest, attitude, and personality. Until or unless a teacher is well acquainted with the diversity of their learners, it will be very difficult for them to effectively engage them in the learning process. The school management plays an important role when it comes to quality education. School management need to go beyond the management of the resources and show leadership skills. Academic leadership is an important quality, not just for the teachers but also for the management. They need to be oriented towards curriculum and how this curriculum is going to be implemented in their educational institution. So their vision needs to be flexible, they need to be more contextual, they need to have a perspective, and they need to have sensitivity towards diversity of the learners. A school management who is well informed about policy, different schemes and programs can create a very good environment in their schools. There are a lot of schemes which are there in schools through the governments, schemes which facilitate girl education, which facilitate disadvantaged groups, which facilitate learners with disability, which facilitate assistive technology for different learners with disability, are already there, and there are a lot of financial assistance which is available for the learners. So it is important that the management is aware about different schemes and as well as the policy which guides the curriculum and its implementation in schools. The school management should motivate their teachers to create a more inclusive environment in their educational institutions. It is not just the teachers who need to be more inclusive in nature, it is also the school management, because they are the decision makers in the school. They need to be more inclusive in their approach. One of the very important developments which has taken place in recent times is about assessment and evaluation. We have started giving importance to continuous and comprehensive evaluation of the learners. Assessment is seen as assessment for learning rather than its use as a gatekeeping process. It is important for us to understand that assessment is a very important component of teaching learning process. Assessment strategies need to evolve in coming times also. It is important that assessment strategies enhance the learning and they give feedback to the learners so that they can improve. The environment for practicing formal as well as informal strategies of assessment should be there in schools, and the teachers should be better prepared to implement continuous and comprehensive evaluation and assessment methods. It is important that they understand that continuous and comprehensive evaluation is a flexible mode of evaluation, and this flexible mode of evaluation gives the learner an edge towards their learning also. The constructivist methods of assessment help in constructivist learning. There are specific quality indicators for secondary education also. Let us discuss about them. Infrastructure and resources are given a lot of importance in school. Effective transaction of our curriculum depends on the kind of resources available in the school. These material and resources create a conducive environment for the learners. For example, if you talk about science learning, it is important that the teachers and the students have some kind of resources available for them with which they can do the activities and learn from these activities. It is not necessary that these resources are high-end or costly resources. Sometimes resources which are easily available around them can be very effective as well as conducive for learning. It is important that we create a proper teacher-student ratio in our classrooms, because it is important that we have a learning ratio where students can interact with the teachers, and this interaction needs to have scope for feedback. If we have a large number of students in our schools, then it will be difficult for the teachers to communicate with a higher number of students at a time. So it is important that we have a proper ratio of students and teacher for a conducive learning environment. School planning and management is another very important quality indicator for secondary schools. School calendar is something which helps us in implementing the curriculum. Until or unless we have a systematic school calendar, it will be very difficult for us to implement the curriculum properly in our schools. It is important that we provide resources for our teachers as well as learners. In present time, it is very important that we provide digital resources for our learners as well as the teachers. School planning and management requires our parents also to be associated with the schools. Parents' participation as well as collaboration with the teachers is an important area which has been neglected in recent times. So it is important that we engage our parents in school through PTMs and SMCs for better functioning. It is important that we think about accommodation of our learners by addressing the difficulties which they face. The learning difficulties which are there can emerge from different reasons. It is not necessary that it is emerging from content. It is possible that we may have learners who may have some disability also. We may have situations where the environment is not conducive for learning. In such ways, our learning should be conducive towards accommodating these challenges which we are facing in our classroom. It is important that our secondary education is inclusive in nature. Inclusive classroom is not just about accommodation of learners with disability in the classroom. We are talking about any kind of challenge which the learners are facing. When we have learners coming from different linguistic backgrounds, coming from different regional backgrounds, coming with different experiences, coming with ideas which may not be in sync with the ideas which are there currently practiced in schools, it may initially create some challenges. But as a teacher, it is important that we use this opportunity to create a better learning environment. So development of inclusive classrooms becomes an important area which need to be focused in secondary schools. Another quality indicator is the use of teaching learning resources. In recent years, you may have seen CIET and NCERT developing a lot of different digital resources which are freely available for the learners. We do have applications like Diksha for students and teachers, Nishtha also available for the teachers, where they can access a lot of different resources for better learning. We do have resources available in abundance through digital sources, open educational resources, and these resources should be made available for the learners as well. It is important that we utilize the developments in technology for our learning. It is important that we have assessment manuals which are available for the teachers so that they are aware about different teaching as well as assessment methods, so that they have a system where they can give a continuous feedback for better learning among the learners. Science kits, social science kits, mathematics kits, language kits are an important component for learning, because as I said earlier, it is not the high-end or high-cost resources which are important. Developing small shoebox kind of kits can also create a lot of difference in learning. Curriculum transaction is important indicator of quality in secondary school. The kind of pedagogical strategies which are used in schools can be critical for effective curriculum transaction. It is important that we associate formal and informal assessment strategies with the teaching learning process. Once the assessment as well as the learning outcomes are in sync with each other, we can think about strategies which are conducive for the learning style of the learner, diversity of the learner, as well as the content which we want to address. It is important that we have space for teaching arts and craft, health and physical education, exhibition, holding workshop, doing practicals, developing skills among our learners, and developing inquiry among our learners. We need to have ideas where we can nurture problem solving skills our learners, so that it is important that we have problem solving approaches as an important strategy, as an important tool when we are transacting our curriculum. The learner's progress is another quality indicator. So it is important that we are able to address their areas of difficulty. Also, they master the subject. So understanding of the subject, developing competency in that subject is an important indicator. It is important that they learn not just the content but also develop skills. They also nurture their attitude towards the subjects which are there, as well as apply those subjects in their learning experiences outside their classroom also. It is important that we address the difficulties which individual learners are facing. Until unless we address these learning difficulties among our learners, the progress may not be as desired. One of the most important areas which is a quality indicator in secondary education is teachers' professional development. Until unless we have a better prepared teacher, it will be difficult for us to achieve our learning outcomes. Teachers need to be informed. They need to be empowered, skilled, informed about the participation which they can do in different seminars, workshops and conferences, so that there is continuous professional development. This continuous professional development will ultimately not just benefit the teacher but also benefit the learner. It is important that they are aware about different workshop programs which are conducted by organizations like NCERT and SCERT and different universities. They need to be inducted towards the ethos of the school. They need to be refreshed about different developments which are taking place in the field of education. They need to be motivated if they want to achieve something at their personal level also. They should be encouraged to take research as an important endeavor in their life. Until unless we have a prepared teacher, we will not have a quality education system in our schools. So we can have different strategies in secondary schools that can help in addressing the quality. It is important that different stakeholders come together for the management of schools. It is not just in the hand of some school management people. It is important that teachers as well as parents as well as students are involved in different decision-making processes. There is a lot of pre-planning which is required. There is a lot of timely implementation of academic calendars which will help in achieving the curriculum goals. We need to have constant communication among different individuals who are stakeholders in this process. These communication channels can be digital in nature also, and we can have a better, fast communication among different stakeholders to address the challenges which are there, as well as to explore the possibilities of learning in future. It is important that timely training of different stakeholders are there. Our teachers need to be prepared, but also our parents need to be aware as well as sensitized about a lot of things. So it is important that the school holds training for different stakeholders. The transparency and flexibility in curriculum in terms of assessment is an important area. It is important that everybody is aware about the kind of assessment process which is going to be followed. And this assessment process will help in learning of the students. The pedagogical strategies which are used should be child-centric, should focus on active engagement of the learners through different activities. It should emphasize on developing skills. It should emphasize on developing 21st century skills among our learners. They should be more oriented toward development of higher order thinking skills among our learners and nurture their problem solving, critical thinking abilities. It is important that we provide a space for professional development of our teachers also through different strategies. So in-service programs can be conducted not just within the school but outside the schools also, and teachers can be encouraged to take these training or workshops. Also, leadership is very important. So leadership also needs to be prepared by participating in latest development which are taking place. So the learning cycle, as we see, is a very cyclic process. We start with our learning outcomes, selection of learning resources, development of assessment strategies which are in sync with these learning outcomes which we are envisioning, and then implementing these strategies of teaching in our classrooms. But in this process, one of the most important things is feedback. Until or unless we reflect and think again about what we have done, how we have done, what are the challenges which we have faced, what are the possibilities in future, and inform the decision making of the teacher, of the management, of different stakeholders, we will not be able to improve in future. So it is important that we think about these ideas. Coming to the National Education Policy 2020, there are a lot of references towards quality indicators in this policy. Some of them I would like to mention here. One of the very important ideas which are given in NEP is that there is no hard separation between different subjects, subjects like art, science, and other co-curricular activities which are there. There is no hard separation. So it is envisioned that there is a sync between different areas of curriculum. There will be a multidisciplinary approach towards learning, which will be more holistic in nature, which will take everything along so that ultimately the learner benefits from it. The use of technology for teaching and learning is extensively envisioned in this document. It is not just envisioned for teaching learning process, but also to remove the barriers which students face in terms of language barriers, in terms of access to our learners with disability, in terms of better planning and management as well. So it envisions inclusion, it envisions equity among our learners, and it envisions a decision-making process which will help all the learners to achieve their potential. The curriculum which is envisioned in NEP will go beyond the rigid boundaries of discipline and explore different areas, and it will dwell into areas of humanities, games, sports and fitness, languages, literature, culture and values. It will be more conducive for the learners to learn in their own context, and within the context they will also learn about the national as well as the global changes which are taking place. The teachers and faculty are at the core, at the heart of the learning process, which NEP 2020 gives a lot of importance. So the outstanding researches which happen around us will be incorporated in the teaching learning process. So ultimately it is important, in NEP 2020, it is important that it says that it is important that we identify and foster the unique capability of each learner, because ultimately it is the learner who is most important. We need to sensitize our teachers so that we are focusing on the holistic development of our learners, which is not just academic but also in non-academic spheres. Thank you so much for listening and watching this module. Thank you.